Now that Manor Lords is in early access, people have sunk what feels like multiple hundreds of hours into the game in an impossible amount of time. With the future development of the game coming to us over the next however many years, Greg, the sole developer of the game, has said he wants to focus on listening to feedback and implementing changes that make sense versus delivering arbitrary roadmaps and timelines. In this video today, I want to touch on some of the things that already exist in the game that I'd love to see improved. Now again, this is a focus on improving existing systems, not adding in a ton of other features. We all have a laundry list of things we'd love added to the game. Rather, this is a focus on quality of life or accessibility improvements that would allow for less managing systems and focusing on improving our villages instead. If this is your first time on my channel, the way I do things is by uploading the knowledge in my videos. Now, it's difficult to paraphrase an entire laundry list of things I'd love to see, but here's 3 big items I'd really like to see. The ability to cancel any add-ons, workshops, etc. Being built on a building, such as a Burgage plot or a farmhouse. Furthermore, the ability to manage said building while that upgrade is under production. So for example, upgrading plows in the farmhouse doesn't allow you to add or remove families while that plow is being constructed. Some sort of system that tells me if there's an idle worker assigned to a building due to lack of resources or what have you. Say a windmill here that has 3 workers assigned to it, but there's no grain to process. So having a system that would alert me to that because the workers are idle would be huge. Lastly, a way to designate a target for the means of production of any of my artisans. So if I have a bowyer, for example, rather than having them infinitely create bows, I'd love to either set a target to create, like a number, or utilize a reserve system where they don't use planks beyond a certain point. Those are some of the things I'd love to see improved upon with the existing systems. And you can simply navigate to any of the other ones that interest you using the chapters in the timeline in the description. But if that's all you wanted to know and nothing else on the list below interests you, then just please feel free to shut the video down and get back to enjoying early access. Before you head out, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if this video did end up helping you, as that does have a massive impact on my channel. Lastly, if you've not yet picked up Manor Lords and you'd like to support the channel, you can use my link in my description to my Nexus Store. Nexus gets Steam keys directly from the developer, Greg in this case, and delivers them to you. Like I said, it does greatly support me. But let's get started here on my list of improvements for Manor Lords. Booting us into the game, let's talk about Burgage plots. Now, Burgage plots have a really cool intuitive system where you go into residential, you click your plot, and you just have 4 points that you can access to create them however you wish. Now, you have another really cool portion of this where you can rotate it, which is really cool. You can make more or less divisions here, which is really cool. A lot of really fun functionality. But you'll notice that when it comes to making weird plots in weird locations or trying to just size it just properly where you get the right amount of plots or the right amount of workshops or the right amount of duplexes, it can get really wily and it ends up having you recreate this box multiple times. If we kind of jump over here to the castle planner, what I would love to see is a system kind of similar to the walls and gates. I can make a wall and gate like this. I can press construct, but then I can just go ahead and move that wall however I want. And it'd be great if for the Burgage plots, rather than just simply going, okay, I'm going to make this here, here, and there. You know what? I don't want to do that. Okay, I got to right click. Okay, we'll go this, and this. And I don't know what you're going to say. Like, we'll just choose it wiser, guy. Yeah, that absolutely is the case. And this is a perfect square, so it's not too big of a deal. But when you start to get to kind of like cattywampus locations like this one, where you are limited to 4 places, you need to kind of have, so if you kind of like see that right there. Okay, so it's like, okay, this is kind of wonky. I don't really want a duplex like this, but if I go ahead and do this, okay, this gets me, okay, well, that's just one big plot. And I can't add a division here, even though it's the same amount of room. So being able to kind of drag these points along or edit these points, I think would really help us out when making Burgage plots to allow us to really socket Burgage plots into kind of the weird creations we create between all of our buildings and our roads. Now this next one is going to be a pretty simple one. In the lower right corner, we see our month. We see that it's September and we see that it's autumn, year 3. Outside of that, we really don't have a way to track the amount of days that are remaining in a month. And sometimes there are things that are dependent upon that month's end. An example would be your taxation. Taxation doesn't kick in until that month's end. Certain things that kick in when that month ends. Or even if you're trying to manually do crop harvesting, if you're going to say, hey, I want to manually harvest all my crops the second November 1st hits, or the second March 1st hits, I want to start doing all of my crop planting. If there was some way to be able to see what's going on here, and I think a real easy solution is just to kind of have a ability to shade this in as the month goes on. Much like when you kind of play World of Warcraft, when you have that cooldown, as you see the icon goes from shaded to slowly unshaded in a radial kind of overlap. Something like that. And this little icon right there would be a world of difference because it allows me to kind of time things. I'll find myself in points in late October or late February where I'm going back and forth between max speed and normal speed, to try to pinpoint exactly when that month hits to start maximizing the amount of time I'm using harvesting or planting crops or any number of things in the game. Now, we talked about this in the intro, but I'm going to use the blacksmith for example here. And I love the ability to set a production target. So if I go ahead and click on general, we can see that I'm producing tools. So if there's a way that I could make it so that, okay, produce these until your storage is full, produce these until you've used or you've hit a very specific number. Like if I'm hovering over this, or oops, let me click on this. Okay, you know what? I don't need a ton of sidearms. I just need, let's just say 36. Well, I want the production of this to go through 36 sidearms and then stop. And then this will lean into the next subject, which will be kind of letting me know, hey, your things have been completed. Rather than having me manually pause this. Another way you could lean into this too is the same system that we get with the saw pit, right? Where we can hit a construction reserve. Reserve will never be used for crafting so that enough raw resources are left for construction. If there was something like that here too, like rather than saying construction reserve, it said resource reserve. Okay, I will never dip below X amount of iron slabs to produce your items here at the blacksmith. Or if I'm using a boiler, for example, I'll never dip below a certain number of planks because you need those planks to upgrade your burgage plots and a number of other things. Something like that where I don't let myself kind of get ahead of myself especially because you can't necessarily see at a glance which one of these is the blacksmith unless you're going through and clicking every single one. So you're going to have to constantly check up here. Oh, you know what? I've got too many sidearms. Okay, which is okay, there's my blacksmith. So it kind of creates a little bit of a fumbling when it comes to managing your artisans, which become a very big portion of your village as you expand out and need these more specialized goods. Here's another quick one. If we take a look here at my fields, they're getting ready to be harvested. Now, I do manual crop rotation because my village is not quite large enough to do the auto crop rotation. And in order to do this, I have to click this button on all six of these fields, all 3 of these, and then all 4 of those. So rather than doing that, I'd love if I could just click on the farmhouse and click maybe on a people, advanced, livestock, wherever, maybe in advanced because we have all this button right here that just says something like force early harvest. And you click it right here in the farmhouse and it does it within the work area because the work area is already where they're going to work. So as long as I just assign people here, I've clicked that button, they will go and take care of the harvest in these locations. And it's going to be, beholden upon you to make sure that this is shut off, just like you would manually. But otherwise, I have to click and go through each one of these to manually force an early harvest. Another suggestion would be to be able to double click fields and mass select them, but I don't think that really works since there's so many. Each field is unique, right? Like double click doesn't give me a bunch of the same field. Like if you're playing Warcraft, you double click one character, hey, here's all of the footmen. No, if I double click the field, here's a bunch of different fields. So maybe that doesn't make as much sense, but either way, a way to harvest all would be absolutely keen. Managing all of your resources and items is a big portion of Manor Lord. And also it's managing how the logistics of these items kind of communicate on how they connect to all of the buildings that need to leverage them. So for example, grain, let me close these two actually. Grain is going to go from the farmhouse to the windmill, and then from the windmill to the communal oven. Now, unless you actually set it up like this, it will go back to the granary or granary every single time. You have to turn them off like this. Rather than just simply having it binary, on and off, I would rather have the ability to set storage priority. Hey, flour, I actually would like to store here, but rather than it being on or off, it's the lowest storage priority, meaning that the game will prioritize storing the flour at the windmill. As long as 250 slots are not used up, then they will continue to store at the windmill. As soon as it hits 250 and you get that notification, hey, the local storage of this facility is taken up, now they'll come and bring them to the granary. The problem, and you could say it to yourself, why don't you just press this, turn it on when that happens? Here's a practical example. I had the malt house here, and the malt house was pumping out the malts. And that was great and all, but I don't want the malts to go here really, because I want the malt house to hold the malt house, and then I want the malts to be picked up by my brewer, who then makes them and then delivers them to the granary, to the still, wherever the ale goes, man. God, what a cool video this is. There it is, the ale. Rather than having the malts go to the storehouse, then to the brewer, then to the granary, it's just too many steps. So having a priority here where the malt house goes, hey, I'm full here, your brewer's not working fast enough, I'll put the excess over in the storehouse, and then the brewer will empty the malt house before they go back over here to the storehouse. Having some sort of priority with storage, I think, is another layer to really help out this already pretty complex system that is a big driving force of the logistics of Manor Lords. I briefly touched on this when we talked about our production for the artisans, but having some way to manage my job sites and know if they're out of resources. Maybe it's the middle of a season where I am trying to deal with pushing a bunch of flour through the mill to the communal oven and making bread. Well, if I hold down tab, I know I can see all these things like this, and that is great. But you know what? I've been working on tons of flour, and they're actually all done with that flour, and they've made all the bread that they can make. And now they're just kind of chilling here. So I kind of have a workforce that's just not doing anything. And in certain portions of the game, you don't really have the population to have workforces just chilling. Or they can maybe be in the farmhouse and you forgot to move them off, whatever it is. Yeah, sure, tab can sometimes quickly see that. But having some sort of alert system, okay, Weaver's a pretty good example here, some sort of alert system that tells you, hey, these pops don't have a job, like they're like, we get the workplace is empty type, or I'm sorry, the workspace is empty, where they tell you, hey, we've harvested all the things in that location. I love if we got a notification similar to that would tell us, hey, these guys don't have anything to do anymore. Let's go ahead and put them somewhere else, whatever the situation is. Now, I did think like that'd be great to know for the artisans as well. Like, hey, blacksmith is currently out of iron. Well, okay, there must be some sort of issue with my iron production. I'd like now to pause the blacksmith. This kind of leans back into the setting production for all of our artisans, but still being able to know if any of my working workers are idle would be absolutely awesome. So here is a farmhouse, and we can upgrade certain buildings, right? We can upgrade farmhouses, we can upgrade our burgage plots, upgrade a church, whatever it is, we have this capability. Now, if I want to upgrade this, I'm going to press this button. And right now I can go ahead and let's just add 4 families here for this example. I'm going to press this button. All right, well, now I'm going to actually just reduce that now to the lowest. Now I can't manage this building at all. Can't do anything. I cannot remove workers. And maybe this is the beginning of a harvesting season and I actually needed to put workers there. Well, I could press Q and that won't work either, nor will E. So I can't add or remove any workers here. And furthermore, I can press this button and it demolishes the whole entire thing. It doesn't stop the actual upgrade. The ability to stop those upgrades would be really nice, because sometimes maybe you accidentally click a button or you realize, oh, you know what? I actually don't need that right now, especially if you're talking about burgage plots, which then increase your need from a resource perspective. Moreover, if I go ahead and take a look at a burgage plot, let's look. I don't think I have any level 2s off the top of my head. There's level 2. If I want to upgrade to any of these specific artisans, I'm locked in it. And I don't think that we should, okay, calm down with the rubble. I don't think that, I think permanence is an important thing in some games. I think it's really good to have that because it makes you really decide if that's something that you need. But if I click this, let's say I accidentally click the Tailor's Workshop or the Cobbler's Workshop. I'm not asking for the ability to remove the workshops, but rather cancel the workshops in the middle of their production and set them to a different one before it's finished. Maybe I actually needed the resources, whatever it is, rather than just simply demolishing the building. Now, the hunting camp is one of the first ways that you will get food in your playthrough of Manor Lord. And typically, you'd want to hunt down to a certain limit, right? Now, you can see I've got my animals. They're coming back up to 20, and then we'll go ahead and hunt again. And I'd love if there was some sort of system where I could say, okay, hunting limit's at 10, but maybe I have got this set to notify at 20. Hey, it seems that there's enough wild animals to hunt again. Or something to the effect where having it so that I know, oh, you know what? We're at a point we can go and hunt. We're at a point we can go and hunt. And I think that would be pretty keen, especially if you're focusing on the developments that really lean into the hunting of the wild animals, which was a really Baroque way to say that. But either way, the hunting system itself could just have a nice little bit of fine tuning so that it's a little bit more, not necessarily automated, but it's less hands-on. And that way you're not constantly going like, not over here doing that. Okay, okay, over here doing that. Many seasons later, what's that? Okay. Some sort of notification system tells you, hey, they have completely repopulated over here, go to town. And typically, even when I'm playing the game, I know that I'm probably going to hunt them seasonally. Like every 2 seasons, they probably have replenished to a point or whatever it is. It's usually in winter that I do this anyway. So this could kind of be, like a throwaway one, but still some sort of system of alert would be great. Back to the old artisan buildings, we've got the Tailor's Workshop. Now, this will be the same thing for any of the other artisans that will produce multiple products, but I'd love if there was not necessarily a production queue, but again, a priority list. Make this if you have the materials. If you don't, then make that. If you don't, then make this. Or just say like, hey, only make this. Some sort of production focus that allows me to set the tailor, again, a little bit more of an automated sweep. Hey, I'm just going to burn through your linen and dyes. Uh-oh, you're out of dyes. Well, I'm just going to swap over to just making gambesons, unless you tell me otherwise. Something that kind of makes it so that the tailor, because remember, when the tailor is in effect, if they don't have what you're setting them to, then they're just kind of a wasted pop, right? Any artisan that is not busy will move timber around for production, but that's the only other thing that they'll do aside from their artisan task. So having what is effectively, let's just say this is a max of 4 families, right? A duplex at level 3, let's just say it's 4. Having what would effectively be 4 families or 2 families, whatever it is, wasted is kind of shitty. I'd rather have some sort of ability to set their priority, especially too, because I can't see at a glance which one is the tailor, which one is the blacksmith. That, I guess, could be its own suggestion here, is being able to hold down tab here and see, okay, this is my tailor, this is my blacksmith, this is my brewer. Yeah, that's my brewer over there. I have a cobbler over here somewhere too, right? Nope. Don't even know what I'm doing with my own game. So just kind of a little bit of transparency so that I can just jump around navigating my artisans a little bit easier. The marketplace, the dreaded marketplace, the thing that I think a lot of people struggle with. And I think what would help here is we kind of already have this, but some sort of market overlay that tells me just by clicking on the market, what the radius is out of what the coverage is. Now you get that by hovering over. If I hover over this, it's right there. But it'd be kind of handy to know, like, hey, if I hover over this, sure, this tells me these are all green. But what if I were to make a building right here? Am I gonna just place something too far off? And let's say I've actually set my production point that I am over in these locations. And yes, you can make a new marketplace. I understand there's workarounds for these things, but an increased transparency on the marketplace, I think, is something that is kind of needed, because a lot of people seem to really be getting snagged with how the actual market supply and demand works, or some sort of notification system here, or some sort of system that tells me, hey, let's kind of look at our granary. Okay, granary and our market. Well, you've got food variety of 91%. Maybe let's just assume I only had one person working at the granary. Something that tells me hey, here's a red exclamation point, and the red exclamation point tells you set up more market stalls, which then tells me, okay, put people at locations that will then set the market stall up, like at the berries, at the bread, at the hunting, whatever, or at the granary. Something that kind of tells me that, because I think a lot of people's issues with the marketplace is they don't realize they don't have enough people at their granaries or storehouse to set up the amount of marketplace to get the coverage for the marketplace supply and demand. Holy shit. Big breath there. But that's my point here, is some sort of increased transparency with the marketplace. So it's less of like a hovering over and guessing, and more of a, okay, I see a green circle, and that means I'm going to be able to hit everything with this one product, or maybe this specific product out to this range. So, I mean, yeah, I know that if I click this, I've got all my fuel covered, but like I said before, what if I make a house here? Is it going to cover my fuel? Well, it is close enough, so it should work. But what if I make a house that is equidistant to this house and it's over here? Give me some sort of transparency on that so I can know, okay, this green circle tells me I'm going to hit everything with fuel. Beyond this, this is an orange circle. There's a possibility within a 20% margin for error that those houses are not going to get hit once the supply starts to dwindle. And here's your red zone that either is not going to get hit, or it's like a 0 to 10%. It's only going to hit if it's absolutely at 100%, a 90 to 100 percentile. Something that gives you that kind of marketplace transparency to make this whole entire process a lot easier. And at that, it brings our video here to a close. So a lot of these things are stuff that I've just discovered over time of playing that I just wish existed in another system. Like, you know what? Hey, we have this construction reserve at the saw pit. I wish that this had like a production reserve over here at an artisan building. Or even then, maybe just knowing at a glance what the artisan buildings are through the tab button, or just some sort of actual cosmetic where this looks like an actual blacksmith, whatever the situation is. And go ahead and let me know in the comment section below, what are some things you'd love to see changed in the game? Not necessarily added, right? We're not talking about adding in cavalry soldiers or adding in, like, I'd love if we had fishing in the game, whatever it is. Those systems, those things will come in time as we see how Greg wants to push through the game. But really, things like this are simple patches, simple little additions here and there that could really change the way that you navigate the game in a lot more, not more better, in a lot better or a lot easier fashion, whatever it is. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.